So back in 2013, Google took a gamble on what was at the time considered to be a rather bizarre machine. This is the Chromebook Pixel, and it was different in just about every way from your average $250 Chromebook, being an ultra premium laptop with a price tag of $13. And you certainly got what you paid for. This thing shipped with high-end specs, YTP, came with an incredible touchscreen display that had a higher pixel density than any other laptop at the time, and it was all housed in an aluminum frame with a glass touchpad and a backlit keyboard. The only downside was it ran Chrome OS, so naturally people ridiculed it a little bit because, to be fair, it did seem a little strange. Books were selling extremely well at the time because of their low price point. So why would Google release a machine that did the exact opposite of the formula that was working for them? Well, that's what we're going to be discussing today as we unbox this thing and see how it holds up over a decade later. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So this right here is what you would have received if you picked up a Chromebook Pixel back in February of 2013, and when you did so you had a choice between two models. There was the Wi-Fi only variant that I have here, as well as one that supported LTE, but that didn't come along until a couple months later for $50 more. And inside this really nice premium feeling box, we've got, well, a rather premium feeling laptop. So this is the Chromebook Pixel itself. We'll come back to that in a moment. And then we also have a couple of accessories. First up is this little Get in Touch card that has a dedicated service and support line that I'm sure is long gone by now. And you have the brick itself right here, as well as an adapter or a extension cable for it, rather, that you can plug into it and use it over a longer distance, because that's what extension cables do. But you could totally use the brick like this if you so desired. And last but not least, we've got a safety and warranty information booklet, and that is literally it. But there is one more notable thing that came with the Chromebook Pixel, and that was a 3-year subscription to a 1 GB Google Drive plan, which, according to a Wired review, actually cost more if you were to buy that outright. So, hey, I mean, if you were planning on storing a whole bunch of stuff in Google Drive for the next few years, it probably made more sense for you just to buy the Chromebook Pixel instead, to save a little money and, get a free computer along with the deal, assuming you could pay all of that up front. Now, as for the Pixel itself, I think that this design holds up really well. This really is a nice premium feeling laptop. It's got a good heft to it, and I really think this could pass for, a modern laptop that would be sold today. It's got this piano hinge on the back that makes it easy to lift the lid with one finger to reveal its 12-inch 3x2 239 ppi screen, which was something that Google touted in the product's marketing as being designed for the web, since it gives you more vertical screen space. For ports, you've got power, mini display port, 2 USB 2.0, and an audio jack on the left with an SD card slot on the right. I honestly think that I could use this machine as like a secondary laptop if it ran another operating system, and well, we'll get to that in a moment. Now, as for why this thing exists, well, it really boils down to it being an experimental product. Like I said earlier, this was a gamble for Google because it went against the grain of the cheap Chromebooks that were making Amazon's bestseller list. But that's exactly the point. Back then, and even still today to some extent, Chromebooks weren't really viewed as serious computers. They were the thing you bought your grandmother because all she did was browse the web and check email. With the Pixel, Google completely flipped that upside down and basically said, hey, these things can actually be good. They can have hardware, a design, they can be machines that make sacrifices. Now, yes, the price tag on this thing was hard to justify, but I honestly don't think Google ever anticipated the Pixel selling very well, because it ultimately didn't. But one thing I remember most from back when this thing came out was the tagline "for" that went along with it, and I think that sums up this product really well. This was Google's attempt at getting Chrome OS to be taken more seriously, not just by consumers, but by hardware manufacturers. And that is perhaps the only successful thing that ever came from this product, because nowadays you still have your $2 low-end Chromebook, as well as higher-end offerings that cost $7. Heck, there's even a gaming Chromebook now for some reason. Now, in terms of updated models, the Chromebook Pixel did get a refresh in 2020, which added newer CPUs and integrated graphics, doubled the RAM on the baseline model, changed the USB ports to 3.1 Type-Cs, and interestingly, got rid of the LTE variant, instead replacing it with the ludicrous speed model, I'm not joking, that quadrupled the RAM and threw in a Core i5 processor instead of i7. Both of these were discontinued just 1 year later in 2016, but all 4 Pixel models received software updates until 2018 when Google stopped supporting them. By that point, the company had released as a successor, which was a laptop-tablet hybrid that sold for around the same price. And all of that brings us to today. So, what can you do with an original Book Pixel in 2025, more than a decade after it first came out? Well, they actually make pretty decent Linux laptops. I mean, what doesn't, right? I guess if you don't count that awful Sylvania Windows CE thing that we explored last year. In fact, Linus Torvalds, you know, the Linux guy, praised the Chromebook Pixel back in 2013, specifically for its screen, and it turns out it's pretty easy to get another Linux distro running on this thing. But we actually don't have to do that because this one I bought actually came with Linux Mint 21.1 already installed by Linus Torvalds. So we're going to go ahead and fire this up and explore it a little bit. Right after a word from today's video sponsor, Surfshark, who provides you... Alright, well here we are with the Chromebook booted up, logged into Linux Mint, and yeah, like I said, I was using this a little bit off camera, and it's just actually been pretty pleasant to use. I've been able to watch YouTube videos, just browse the web in general. We're going to do a bit of that here, but we're also going to try to, you know, push this machine a little bit. We're going to download Steam and maybe play a game or two, and just kind of see how it handles that. Because yes, this has a Core i5, it is x86 based, though that 4 gigs of RAM, that's where we're probably going to feel the impact of this older hardware the most, but we'll see how it performs. Now, like I mentioned, it is currently running Linux Mint 21.1, which is not the latest version. I actually have not looked into the hardware requirements to see if the latest version of Mint can run on here, but, you know, I'm sure I could update it if it does support it, or I could put some completely different distro on here entirely, but this is just what came on it from the seller that, like, refurbished this computer, and so I just figured I was leave it on here for now, because it does have support until 2027, and I did run through the updater and, you know, got all the latest packages and everything. So we've got like the latest version of Firefox, and we're just gonna jump right over to my YouTube channel, and we'll play back some video. This is one of those tests that I always do just to kind of demonstrate, you know, something that a lot of people are going to do on a computer, right, is watch YouTube videos. So we'll go to my latest video as of me filming. So is it possible to run modern video games on... The answer is kind of, if you want me to sum up this couple seconds video in like over an hour. But yeah, so we are currently playing back at P6. I'll go ahead and just mute the audio and we'll skip around a little bit. Now that I think about it, this probably isn't the best video to demonstrate this because it is just a screencast, so there's, you know, a whole lot of motion going on. I mean, well, there is motion going on in the sense of, like, something you can see easily, like if it's lagging behind. So maybe go to my Windows NT on PowerPC Max video, and we'll just let the intro play a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, you can see perfect frame rate, and what are we playing back in 1080p 60. We'll go ahead and full screen this and let it play a little bit here. Yeah, I mean, totally watchable. Don't really notice any slowdowns whatsoever. Of course, one thing you probably notice is the aspect ratio taking effect here. The fact that this is 3:2. You do get those bars along the top and bottom. So that is something that you're just going to have to kind of deal with videos, because you're probably not going to find a video in a 3:2 aspect ratio. I'm sure there's some out there, but it's definitely not very common. So I won't spend a whole lot of time just going through my own YouTube videos because, well, you guys can do that on your own, and I would definitely appreciate it if you ever feel like checking out some of my other stuff. But yeah, you get the idea, right? I mean, web browsing, totally doable. I just like to use YouTube as an example because, you know, it is a more graphically resource-intensive website than something like Wikipedia. One thing I would like to do that I haven't actually done a whole lot in videos recently is download Geekbench. I figured we could run Geekbench on here and, you know, get some numbers and just kind of see how it stacks up. So we'll let that download, and I guess we can also grab Steam while we're at it. Geekbench finished before that finished. Of course, Geekbench, the installer, looks to be much larger than Steam's here, but we'll go ahead and open up the installer here. It looks like we need to get another package as well. We got to get Xterm, okay. So we will install. All right, and Steam finished installing. So I guess we'll go ahead and open this up while Steam is still downloading. Geekbench is going to have to download some stuff anyway, so we'll let that do it. Do its thing in the background here. One thing I do want to touch on, and this is just the case with pretty much every Chromebook, is the fact that the keyboard layout on here is a little bit wonky and something that you definitely have to get used to. For example, you've got the search key in place of caps lock, and on Linux Mint here, that just kind of acts as your Windows key, you know, for opening up the applications menu here. So there's no like key down here between Control and Alt. You just have, well, Control and Alt, and then all these buttons up here next to the escape key that are just, you know, labeled as like back and forward and refresh. Those just get mapped as your function keys, so F1 through F10. So, you know, that might take a little bit of getting used to, because like this button here, which would be the refresh key, is labeled as like F3 button, but that's actually going to be 2 over is F5 to refresh the page. So, I mean, just the labeling might take a little bit of getting used to, and you might do a couple like double takes looking at that being like, wait, isn't that? Oh, wait. But of course, you can just remap these however you want, but this is just the way that this was mapped with Linux Mint here by default. And there is Steam updating, so we'll move that over here, and gosh, Geekbench, your freaking upload speed is really slow, man. This is taking a while to download a 2 byte file. Maybe there's people downloading stuff from their server right now, but we're almost done, because I kind of wanted to do the Steam before Geekbench testing. Well, I mean, before we play any games, I'm definitely going to run Geekbench, but we'll get Steam installed and like ready to go. So yeah, and gosh, look at this window is so small. There might be some scaling setting. In fact, let me go into, whoops, not that. Let's just go into settings here and see if there's something like about scaling, maybe under appearance. Window scaling, here you go. Oh, 1x and 2x. Okay, so it's already on 2x. The thing is, it seems to just be Steam doing that. Maybe there's a setting we can change in there, because if I go into accessories here and open up, you know, appearance, I mean, that shows up totally fine. So maybe there's something we can change like within Steam. Anyway, it is running and downloading stuff, so that's good. How's Geekbench doing? We still at like 5 minutes, 50 minutes, 2 seconds left. Can you beat Steam? Because I think Steam is totally done now. 9 seconds? Can the Steam login window come up before this? It can. Look at that. Okay, it just finished. So, alright, we'll close out of the Steam login window for now. And let's just open this up. Okay, it requires an active internet connection, which we have. And it looks like it's just doing its thing right now. Okay, yeah, running file compression, there we go. And we're done. This was actually the 3rd time that I ran Geekbench, because it crashed the first time. I had to run it again. I also ran it as sudo, just in case. But yeah, it just gives us this link here that we got to click on to actually view the results. So we'll go ahead and do that. So this is the Google link, 538 single core score, 1041 on the multi-core. Apparently it says invalid, maybe invalid due to an issue with the time on this system. Huh. Well, it did complete the test, so